Ferrari's Project 676 will be different by 95% of the components as compared to the SF23. Work is underway in Maranello to reduce the gap with Red Bull. In the past Formula One season, the limitations of the SF23 became apparent ever since during pre-season tests in Bahrain, prompting the Scuderia's technicians to opt for a change in direction of the aerodynamic concept. However, they faced the impossibility of making profound changes due to structural limitations of the project related to the chassis. Specifically, the position of the side impact structures, anti-intrusion cones, the location of radiators and electronic control units, and the dimensions of the gearbox housing that limited the cleanliness of the diffuser design. The goal pursued by the technicians led by Enrico Cardile under the supervision of Diego Tondi at the aerodynamic level was to achieve a more stable dynamic and aerodynamic balance, aiming for a drastic reduction in tire degradation, which, in practice, constituted the main problem underlying the inconsistency in the car's performance during races compared to qualifying. In 2023, it is fair to say that this goal was only achieved in the latter part of the season, essentially starting from the Italian Grand Prix, after the setback suffered in the Netherlands, which, according to the same technicians in Maranello and team principal Frédéric Vasseur, represented a turning point in understanding the dynamic and aerodynamic behavior of the SF23. From that moment, in defining the setups for each Grand Prix, they decided to sacrifice maximum downforce values, opting for better aerodynamic balance by adopting particularly low ride heights. The underside of the car, especially in the latest version introduced at Suzuka, has gradually provided a preview of the concepts integral to the 2024 car. As described, even the underside of the SF23 was strongly limited by the architecture and accessory packaging, preventing the development of Venturi channel sections larger than those originally adopted, and above all, the increase in the effectiveness of the diffuser that would have allowed obtaining higher downforce values and, more importantly, a distribution of load that would have resulted in greater stability of the aerodynamic center of pressure during high-speed direction changes, fast corners. This is decidedly one of the objectives that, with the project in the phase of realization and detailed definition in Maranello, and already a part of the components in production, the technicians led by Enrico Cardile have set. Not to be underestimated is a reassuring fact. By mid-December, the first chassis of the new car had already been built and was in the process of assembling all components, in practice, ahead of a very tight schedule. The aerodynamicists followed two major directions in defining the new car concept. One concerns the increase in the flow and quality of the air that grazes the lower section of the sidepods. Increasing the section of the channel that develops between the floor and the sidepods is crucial to redirect a higher and higher quality flow towards the rear. As described last year, the structural limit that prevented the realization of such a concept was the presence of the anti-intrusion cones at mid-height of the chassis. For this reason, the chassis in Project 676 has been completely redesigned, not only placing these elements much lower, essentially at the lower limit of the chassis, but also repositioning the radiator packages and adopting a more forward position in the sidepods compared to 2023 for the electronic control units. The second intervention, no less important or radical, concerns the total redesign of the gearbox housing to gain approximately 40 mm in width with a rear end, rear suspension, still pull rod but completely redesigned. Essentially, the central section of the floor that extends to the center of the diffuser on the 676 will be considerably narrower, freeing the airflow, favoring an increase not only in the effectiveness of its extraction, but also in the efficiency of the rear wing, specifically at the lower profile beam wing level.